Good morning and welcome in to the Brass Ring Media Podcast for Friday, October 6th, 2023. I am Zach Haydorn. That is Tyler Sage. Tyler, what's going on, man? Welcome into our free show of the week.
Yeah, good to be here. As I take a sip of coffee, and now I'm all congested because dairy is bad for all humans. So yes, it is. It's good to be here. I got my Thug Life shirt on, so I'm ready to drop some bars. I'm not. Do not take me up on that. I cannot rhyme at all. So, but yeah, excited to be here. Excited to talk. Kind of bizarre world. Kind of an evergreen episode from the layout. If you look at the title, right? CM Punk talk. Cody talking. About Cody going up against a rival brand on a specific night of the week. It's kind of just like a perfect circle of wrestling talk today. So good to be here.
It's a perfect circle of wrestling talk. We got a lot of good stuff coming up. We're going to talk CM Punk and the news that broke this morning that he's in negotiations, discussions to join WWE again. We're also going to talk about the big wrestling battle that's going to take place on Tuesday night next week, AEW versus NXT. What it means, who's going to win, and everything in between. But first, just take care of some business here. This is the Brass Ring Media Podcast. This is our free show. We do a free show every single week right here on YouTube. You can check it out live here and also after the fact as a podcast, wherever you get your podcast, Apple Music, Spotify, iHeart, anywhere and everywhere. You can download the audio there as well. If you like what you hear here on a weekly basis for free, you can join our Brass Ring Media membership. That sentence didn't make sense. But you become a Brass Ring Media member. And for $4, you get an extra podcast. You get all of our pay-per-view post shows. You get exclusive columns from both of us and others on our Brass Ring Media Substack. And you also get access to our Brass Ring Media Discord world, which has been really a fun part of this whole thing. We're just a little over a month old here and going strong. So we hope to earn your business and we hope you give us a shot. You like what you hear. We'll make sure to give you your money's worth. Tyler, any plans for some interesting content this week on the old Brass Ring Media feed?
Yeah, I mean, like we talked to, if anyone watches us on the SE Scoops podcast or /show, whatever we officially call that, I'm not good with branding. But yeah, I got my comparing wrestling to Terminator 2, Judgment Day, or the Terminator series, and like the John Wick thing. That analogy I made kind of on the fly. Definitely going to do a deep dive to compare that. And so if you want to, especially if you're watching wrestling this weekend with a group of friends, you can really bust that out and really look like a
really know.
I'm not going to say smart. I'm just going to say like interesting, because it's kind of like a out of nowhere analogy that people are like, okay, cool, man. It'll really work on a specific group of people. But I've also been rewatching Dragon Ball Z. You're a little older than me, and by little I mean what, like 4 years older than me. So
yeah, what are you, 34?
I'll be 34 in April. Yeah. So,
okay, so I'll be 30. 5 years. I'll be 39. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But I don't know if that hit for you the same way it did with me. A couple of years makes a huge difference there. But I've been rewatching that, and that is very much wrestling in a nutshell. So that might be another future. Who's the Goku of wrestling, who's the Vegeta, etc. So I think it's like a good way to do heel turns and face turns. They do that really well in that show. So little tease for maybe November's article there as well.
There is nobody writing more interesting stuff than you, man, on about wrestling, and the Terminator column is going to be awesome. Can't wait to read that. But the only way you can read it, got to become a Brass Ring Media member. Subscribe on Patreon right now. It's $4. Patreon.com/Brass Ring Media. We'll have coverage this weekend of WWE Fastlane and a ton more. So we will hope to earn your business. And thank you. Comments are open. If you guys are watching us live, thanks to everybody who's tuning in live here. Get your comments in. We always like to get a good discussion going. And as we talk some specific topics here, it'll be fun to get some outside perspective. But let's start off with the news that's making the rounds this morning, and it's kind of it's a doozy. And if you haven't heard what the news is that I'm talking about, Dave Meltzer and House of Wrestling are reporting that CM Punk is in talks to join WWE, and it's quote unquote a safe bet that he will be at WWE Survivor Series when it is in Chicago in a little over a month's time. So, boy, some things have a weird way of coming full circle, man. Like you look at like what CM Punk's debut in AEW was like, and the framing, how he framed that up with that first promo, and how I left wrestling in 2005, and in 2021 I'm coming back.
Yeah.
And now it's 2023, and so it's and now going back to WWE.
Yeah, to leaving wrestling again.
To leaving wrestling.
Wrestling. I left wrestling in 2020, or I went to wrestling in 2021. Now I'm coming back to not wrestling in 2023. Hopefully he leans into that, because that's going to be a meme of all memes right there. So it
is, and I can't. Yeah, I mean it's man, in some ways it's just that is CM Punk in a nutshell. Just I can't tell sometimes. What's just complete BS and what's really in this guy's head, but it doesn't matter. Reports indicate that he's going back to WWE. When you hear that, what do you make of it? What do you make of that news?
Well, my Tyler take on it is that AEW Dynamite, like, per capita, is like the best receipts of past promos, because people are not scripted in their promos, right? So there's I assume you saw Punk on commentary talking about Jungle Boy when that all happened, when he's like, no one could have an issue with Jungle Boy. He's like the nicest guy in the world. Like, you're crazy. You're crazy if you have a beef with Jungle Boy.
It's totally on you if you had a problem with that guy.
Yeah. So that aired immediately, and then what you just brought up with leaving or coming back to professional wrestling, like, and then there's stuff with Cody too, which we'll talk about, where he's like, saying we don't go head to head with company, with another company on their developmental show, and now he's doing that. So it is like an incredible amount of source for calling people out because they're speaking the truth that they feel at the time and then going back and not doing that. So that's my initial take. But my real take here, beyond the business aspect of it, which I don't think is good. I think I'm similar to Edge or to Adam Copeland coming to AEW, which I'm a little more bullish on with what happened Wednesday. But like, I'm in a similar boat where I don't think WWE needs it. But I certainly hope that the energy is there for people like me and you and people across the industry and people that watch the show, consume a lot of wrestling, to bring that same energy that we were for, I just hope it's like doesn't get brushed under the rug that this guy is a total locker room cancer and a horrible guy to work with. Like, I hope that narrative doesn't change. I know that's what he's trying to do here, more than, probably get the money first and foremost. But rehab his image, I think, is a close second for his ego, at least. And if it's like all hunky dory and everything works out and you don't hear anything, like, I don't want the narrative to be like, hey, AEW's a train wreck in WWE, they got their stuff together, just because it might be, there's things in place, and that could be an argument too, but the guy itself, I guess, is what I don't want to change, right? Like, I don't want the narrative to be like, oh, Phil's a great guy now because he found the right place to work with, he works with adults, etc. He's still that guy. So I'm just looking for that narrative, and who's going to be spinning that narrative of like, oh, WWE is the place to go if you want to, do all that stuff. And the argument there is not like, yeah, does WWE have those things in place? Yes. But is CM Punk the person, not a total POS and someone that you don't want to work for and has killed his legacy? I don't think that will change no matter what he does in WWE. But the main aspect is, I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze on all the baggage and what does he bring you in ring as a talent. We'll see. I could be wrong, but I think it's more of a pop in Chicago, and feels like something they could hold on to in like a year from now when they're post Roman and need a big pop, as opposed to just doing it right now. So I think it's kind of strange timing all around, but it's also hard to argue like to not do it. But if I don't know who's making the actual ultimate decision now. That's an interesting question, right? But if I'm Paul Levesque, if I'm Vince McMahon, I don't want to do it. If I'm Ari or whoever's on the top of that food chain, maybe I see it, but I just don't see who makes this decision. It's like, okay, we need to absolutely do this right now, because he's not going anywhere else and he's always going to be available. So it's kind of a strange like super confirmation in the middle of like a super hot run for the company that could derail it. So I'm not pro it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm higher on it from a just a wrestling perspective. I think you're totally right on like the narrative. Like this has all the makings of, you know, CM Punk, the guy wanting to, you know, make good on his, you know, legacy for his ego and make a lot of money. I mean, that's what this is. Um from his perspective, you know, I'm sure, yes, does he want to have fun wrestling matches? Absolutely. I mean, I don't doubt that. It's just, I think, you know, I think he looks at WWE now as, oh man, you know, I was in this, I was in AEW and couldn't make it work. And so now the narrative is it's going to be what you don't want it to be. Like, I'm pretty like certain of that. Like, I think it's going to be he's so happy. This place is run by adults. There's a hierarchy. Everybody has, knows where to go for what they need, and it's buttoned up. And it's what's amazing about that from like a, someone who's seen Punk's entire run from like the small Chicago's here to WrestleMania is that what that type of thing, like, I know where to go. The leadership's in place. This is good. This communication is smooth. Like, all of that is stuff that, like, he hated about WWE when he left. Like there was no communication. We didn't know who to go to. Vince was horrible.
Yep.
Blah blah blah. And now he's kind of crawling back, and it's a different ish WWE. I think I think some of like the ruthlessness. He was one of the last guys to face like the ruthlessness of, the Vince McMahon wrestling business. Like, I remember being at Starcast and he's on the stage talking about just his career, and someone told him that Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins took time off for their honeymoon. And he was like flabbergasted. He could not understand. He's like, wait, they got time off for that? They got like, and so I think, he's walking into a different WWE as far as that kind of stuff is concerned. And he'll be a part-time guy, I'm sure. He's not going to have to wrestle as often as. So, I mean, I think that's going to be the narrative. I think like in 6 months' time, you're going to be like, damn, he spun the hell out of that thing. And now, because I just think that, that's, I think, the goal of this. Like, and it will be unfortunate because I think still he's going to be all the things that he was. And I maintain that even if WWE signs him, and even if he has a good run, he won't, like, I don't think he'll ever get the adoration from fans that he had prior to returning to AEW. I mean, that I think was forever lost based on how that whole thing with AEW went down. As far as the wrestling side of it, though, there are a lot of opponents that he can work with and make some good money. I mean, like, Cody's out there, Seth Rollins is out there, Roman is out there. Those are like the three big ones. But my thought more than like him actually wrestling matches is, I think that there's like a whole like content, bucket that they're going to be able to do around CM Punk. I'm talking like, Peacock stuff on his return, a huge documentary that they're going to do about him and him coming back. Something with the UFC, maybe there's like, some kind of integration there. Like, I see more from that angle than I do, Punk's going to go on a huge run in main event WrestleMania. I don't see that happening. Like, I just don't see him, in that slot still to this day. But when you think about all the other things that WWE does and all the other things that they're responsible for now in terms of like generating revenue, I mean, they can lean on him and his story for a ton of that stuff. So I'm a little bullish. I'll wait and see. I'll wait and see on that stuff. But I mean, does Punk versus Rollins, Punk versus Reigns, Punk versus Cody, does that do anything for you or no?
Well, so take into account too, we're on a different form of media here, but I have a big personal disdain for CM Punk, the performer. Maybe not the person. I think him and I agree on like a lot of social issues, but like, so take all this with a grain of salt with me, because like I'm trying to analyze it. I think you're probably right. Really, the real analyzing of it is that essentially WWE and AEW traded Adam Copeland and CM Punk. It's really what's happened in this last week, right? They're feeling the same need for both companies of feeling fresh legend matches that's going on, right? That's like the on paper analytical, like boring spreadsheet approach to this is what this is. But all that other stuff is like, so when you ask me the real question, I want to like, I don't want to assume anyone's going to get hurt, but like, does CM Punk to you, does that strike? Like, obviously, yes, he's probably going to be working, 6 matches in 2024? Is that like your over under?
Yeah, I'd probably
maybe six singles matches and maybe like 12 matches total.
Yeah, right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So
a couple TVs and a couple big pay-per-views. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you're going to probably stay healthy working that amount of, as opposed to what you're doing in AEW. So, but he's got to prove it to me that he can hold up in those matches physically, because he's not proven that in AEW in this current run. And but yeah, I mean, I think there's lots of good talking opportunities. Obviously, him and Seth, I think that was planned in a long time in advance. Now that you watch that video, right. Who's the source? Who's doing the interview is what I ask everybody. Not to get conspiracy Tyler here, but who's doing that interview that everyone's going to reference that Seth was talking about Phil being a cancer is our great friend who broke the story, right? So very interesting. But that seems like
good memory. That's a good memory.
Yeah, I'm like the watchdog for our fellow comrades in the business. And I met Nick at SummerSlam. Great guy. So I'm not trying to like burn that. I'm just trying to tell you, like, if I was in Nick's spot, I would do the exact same thing, right? Mm-hmm. So don't ever say I sold out, right? So because I totally will. So it's not even going to hurt me if you say that. But that seems like that's on the table. Him and Cody. They never met in AEW. You can kind of do some pseudo story there to like, now they're the major leagues together. I'm sure they interacted at some point, back in the day. But, and then, him and Roman, post him and Jay, I think all that can work. Also, like the one thing we haven't talked about here is like the one pro, obviously all the stuff with WWE being a real company and AEW being like a little bit of a mom and pop shop from the way it's run, right? You cannot argue that. But will WWE force Punk to be a heel, which I think is his most effective trait as a professional wrestler, right? You get past the initial cheers and you force him to do a character. I think he's much more effective. And I think I see him as a heel doing a lot of stuff with Jay, with Seth, with Cody, as that antagonist that loses and is kind of that gatekeeper for maybe up and coming faces. But one other thing, if I can get my last bit of ranting on CM Punk here before we continue further, 2 things. We got to get a new CM name, right? He's got a million CM monikers, Chick Magnet being the original one, right? So is this Corporate Mark or Corporate Man Punk? So, we'll workshop it, but
Corporate Man Punk, I like it.
Corporate Man Punk, I think is what I'll call him. I like Corporate Mark as well. That's pretty funny. You have to get under his skin. So one of those 2. And then also, what does MJF say about the devil? And I guess Christians as well. The greatest thing he ever did was convince people he didn't exist. Like, I think CM Punk is the devil of the wrestling industry. So for real. So
so here's the thing. I'm trying to find a comment here because Sean is in our chat, and hello to Sean, hello to Brandon, hello to Zach, hello to everybody else who's joining us. Thank you for doing so, and thank you for getting the conversation going. Trying to find. Okay, here's from Sean. Punk won't be able to cause the problems he did in AEW and WWE. This is where like where you talk about like the narrative of Punk coming back and like this idea of like the devil and Punk being that for the wrestling industry. Like, I think Sean's right. Like, you know, and it's bizarre to say because Punk, all he did in WWE in that first run is cause problems, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
it's weird to kind of say that, oh, we won't be able to come back. But like in AEW, like Punk was a big fish in, a semi big pond, right?
Mm-hmm.
In WWE, he's like, he's a star, but he's not anywhere near, he's not going to have the type of focus that he had on him in WWE or in AEW, excuse me. Like he's going to have like the Edge focus, where he's there. They make a relatively big deal about it when he is there, but he's not Roman Reigns. He's not even, he's not going to be John Cena. I don't think they're going to frame him as, on that level, anywhere close to that level. He's probably not, getting the attention that Seth or that Becky, or that Charlotte, gets. So it'll be interesting to watch him like have that taste of the humble pie because he left a situation where he was unquestionably top dog, got treated like it, and that didn't work for him. And now, he's going to have to fall back into this situation and be a regular sized fish in or bigger than regular sized fish, but in a humongous corporate pond. And he just is not going to stand out as much. And maybe he won't matter because the checks are going to be so thick, but there's nothing in Punk's history that would tell you that wouldn't matter. But I think WWE more so than AEW is just like can afford to say, "Hey, look, we'll bring you back. This is going to be fun for our fans, and we're going to make some money with you, and we're going to do all this content." But the minute we don't need you like AEW needed to make a whole another show for you. So Punk, if you mess up, like you're gone, and you're out. And I think like that WWE being able to kind of flippantly just dismiss any Punk stuff because of like that attitude is going to make it easier. I mean, if he wants it to be, it's going to make it easier for him to survive in that environment. But I don't think he's coming in and, working Roman at WrestleMania. I just don't see that as, something you do if you're WWE. Like, I just don't.
Yeah. I mean, so agree with you 100%. I also think, we never see contracts in wrestling. I don't know what that, I guess they're still independent contractors. That's why we don't see contracts for a publicly traded company. It seems odd, honestly. I guess I'm not a shareholder, so I guess I have no gripe there. But you would think that is public knowledge of all the. I guess they have a line item for all the salary. I guess that's all you are owed. But definitely that contract, knowing WWE, TKO, etc. Like, there's got to be some, not a morality clause, but some sort of like being a good employee clause of like if you post shit on Instagram that is labeled as disruptive to the rowing of the boat of the corporate parent company, then you're done, you're fired with cause, right? You're not getting any of this money that you're owed, right? So that's assuredly in there, and that's the leverage that they have. And obviously, like, they have nothing but leverage on Punk. Of you burn the bridge with the only other place in town, so it's here or nothing. And if you want to do commentary for the big boy, for our pro company, our other company, UFC, that used to fight for, like, we also own that. So we own everything you want to do career wise, besides writing comic books or whatever. We own all of it. So you're going to be a good soldier. You're going to smile. You're going to take losses. You're going to be that, Brock Lesnar spot, the Goldberg spot for our company, the Edge spot, whatever have you. And you're going to smile and you're going to like it. And if you don't like it, you're going to be gone and we're not going to pay you and you're dead to us. I think that's kind of, they're not going to say that explicitly, but it is, that's all the leverage they have. You laid it out politely and nicely. But I agree with you that that's like why you're not going to see him in that spot. You're going to see him maybe, he'll have the CM Punk match at WrestleMania, right? So if Seth loses the title, him and Seth at WrestleMania, that could even be the headline of night one. That keeps him happy. That's a big spot for everyone's happy, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, him and Roman's not happening. for the title. Punk is not going to be, a world champion. He might be the secondary world champion at some point if he needed to make that belt feel a little bit more special, but then he'll go back to Punk ways and not main event shows with that title. So I think that'd be a funny little poetic thing there too. So, but yeah, I agree with you 100% is what I'm trying to say. And I think they will totally neuter him, and he might be pissed behind the scenes. And even if it leaks, I'm sure that is an issue for him and his contract.
Yes.
And,
yeah. I don't think they're going to play those games. Like, I don't think that they're not going to play those games.
Yeah, which is good. That's what AEW should do. Everybody, etc. Like, that's the one thing. If you're running a company, you want to be taking, you want to be the, not everybody's friend, right? It's like parenting, right? You're a parent, Zach. Like, what's the, like, because you're not their friend right now where they are in life. You want to be their friend when they're adults, right? But right now you're their parent, and that's kind of like within reason, right? But like that's kind of the WWE versus AEW. Like, they have a 5-year-old, and they're like, all right, buddy, don't eat the whole pint of ice cream. And it's 2 a.m. You got to go to school tomorrow. And they're like, no, I want to stay up. It's like, okay, well, that's what you want to do. That's kind of the AEW approach. And the WWE's like, hey, it's 9 o'clock, get to bed. Yes. I don't want to hear it anymore. So that's kind of the difference between the two. So,
yes. Can you come over and tell my kids that? That sounded good. That was not good and firm instruction.
Yeah.
You're hired.
Cool.
So that said, and I agree. Well said. I want to get to some comments here. Tracy, hello. Mm-hmm. Thank you for being here. Always good to see you in the chat. Where is this? Where is this darn thing? I'll find it. But my question is, where, if you're Triple H and you're bringing back CM Punk, like, what are you lining up for him between Survivor Series and WrestleMania, knowing, like, fantasy book it a little bit, like knowing that, like, you may, because I think it's very similar to Edge. Like, you bring him back, like, do the big stuff, and then whatever, you're playing with the house money after that. How would you build, like, his arc to WrestleMania? At that point, assuming he stays healthy, are you going right away? Like, you're going to do, Seth at Survivor Series, and then Roman at the Royal Rumble, and then, something else, Cody at WrestleMania when Roman works the Rock instead. Like, how are you positioning him to make sure that you can get the most out of him, but also, I don't know. Like, I just don't see him as being more than that kind of top level utility player, like a Goldberg. So he's going to get a lot of wins, but then he's going to lose a big match to somebody. Like, like, what trajectory are you putting him on?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would do the similar. I'm not having him fight Lee Moriarty and that sort of stuff we talked about with Edge on the Tuesday show, but like, AJ's healthy, right? He's always kind of up and down for me. So, like, I think that could be a fun little entry feud if you did it on TV. Depends on how much you use him, right? Because I don't think he's going to do anything at Survivor Series besides appear. Unless he's like, unless they do a traditional match and he's the 5th guy, which I think would suck. So hopefully they don't do that. But, because then he's got to be the sole survivor, else, like, why the hell did you bring him in? So, but, or a duo survivor with somebody else, maybe him and Seth or something. But, I think something like that, or like if you want to have that little quick babyface run at the start because he's going to get the big pop, maybe like Nakamura right off of that. It's kind of scratched the itch for that hardcore fan that wanted to see these ultimate matches from that era. And, because him and AJ never was that same Rumble that was his last Rumble. Was that AJ Rumble or was that the one after? I'm trying to think.
Oh no, that was a couple after.
Yeah. So like, they've never interacted. I think that'd be a fun, like, for like the hardcore fans, and you can slowly build him up, get wins against guys like that. And then, he's in the Rumble. And if it's Rock and if it's Roman, then him and Cody makes a lot of sense. If not, then him and Seth make a lot of sense at WrestleMania. But, I think you got to keep him, if you want to use him in a spot like that, you do have to protect him. And assuming he's got 2 or 3 matches before WrestleMania, I think you go kind of that fan servicey thing of like, hey, it's, I don't know, what's the pay-per-view is it Elimination Chamber this year? Do we know in between?
Yeah.
Okay. So if it's like that, like if he's not in that, let's say, and it's him and AJ Styles for the first time ever in their careers, they're both in their mid 40s. That's like if you have 5 matches on a card that can set you up for, hey, that's a really cool match. I'm excited just for that if I'm an AEW fan, right? Maybe not a WWE fan. But, I think you slow play it because you're going to assume you have him for at least, let's say, 2 years. And then you build up to those bigger matches. But, on that roster, anyone I want to see him against, I just don't see, him beating and how it helps that person, right? I think Drew should beat him if Drew's going to stick around. And I think Seth should beat him 2 out of 3 times if they have a 3-series match. Cody should beat him.
Roman,
so it's
obviously.
Roman should beat him. Jay should beat him. Am I missing anyone? Here, Gunther should beat him if he's a babyface. That might be an early, him and Gunther before he turns heel. So it's that thing of have some neutral babyface, and then maybe some babyface heel stuff. So yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, it's AJ, Nakamura, and Gunther is his first 3 matches. Then he fights someone big at WrestleMania, and he wins 2 out of 3 of those or something. I think that's what kind of run he's looking to do. It's more just that. I certainly think he's a Raw guy. I wonder what you think there, because they're not worried about SmackDown numbers at all, and it's 3 hours. So
yeah,
he's more important for filling 15 minutes with a promo every week than anything in my mind.
Yeah, it's really I kind of, this is going to sound like totally whacked out crazy, but I kind of think you need to blow up the CM Punk character kind of in a lot of ways. Because look, in WWE in his first run, he could be this anti-company, anti-guy, right? And that's how he got over. In AEW, same thing. He was able to kind of carry that over and not so much be anti-AEW, but he's in AEW, which is just that company existing is Punk's gimmick, in a much broader sense. That's the essence of that, is his act. Now that he's back, though, it's what are you going to say? What are you going to talk about? You can't, how are you going to phrase this up? So I remember back, remember in 05 in Ring of Honor when he was playing up corporate WWE, and he signed his WWE contract on the ROH World title.
On the belt, yeah.
So some great stuff. And I think he needs to find a mix of that and suit wearing monotone Chris Jericho from 2008. I think you want to find a different, just a different way to present that Punk character. And also, you're not 30 anymore. You're 45. Whatever he is. It's you have a different perspective on everything. I don't think he can really effectively be the young Punk, that he was when he left WWE. So I am looking for him to turn heel, but be something a little bit fresher with the character, and then go on a similar run that you suggested. I think you want him to work heel against Seth Rollins. I think you want him to work heel against Cody Rhodes. Roman, I don't know. For Roman, I look at Roman Reigns and he's going to need a match, a big time match at the Royal Rumble, a title match at the Royal Rumble. And I'm thinking all right, if that's not Cody, Punk could, because, the Royal Rumble title matches, they want them to be big on paper, but really they don't ever really mean all that much because the Royal Rumble match is the big main event. So I think you could really do something there with Roman and Punk. And it's, maybe it's before a heel turn, you do that first, and obviously Reigns wins and but then you've done that match. But after that, I really think you need to I don't want to say reinvent, because that's too drastic. Just mature in this kind of Punk character, and because nobody's gonna buy the anti-authority thing now that you came crawling back and are part of this big company. So I'd really be interesting to see that. But yeah, I mean, Gunther, that's a good first match out of the gate. Finn Balor, I think, is another one for Raw. I mean, Finn Balor can work anybody. Even Damian Priest, Dominic, he could do a whole series of matches with the damn Judgment Day. So I think you're like on the right. I think you're on the right path in terms of get him in there, get this kind of like big pop stuff out of the way, and then and then move on. Do you think that like I mean, in Chicago, yes, big pop's coming for sure. I think the event's already sold out, but I mean, just the mention of Punk here in a WWE ring, I think would sell the building out. But I mean, there's a lot of people who, are teenagers right now that were really, really young kids when Punk, was in his prime in WWE. I mean, that's, almost 14 years ago. Like, do you think he's had the lasting impact where, people are going to like come back to watch him? And then do you think the current Punk character, if he doesn't change, will that appeal to like new fans that are watching him for the very, very first time?
Yeah, I mean, that might be a good article idea because I'm trying to think like that gap. If you didn't watch WCW, is very Hogan-esque, right? And like, what were those numbers for like? So Hogan came back as yellow and I guess he was he NWO when he first came back?
No,
like,
no.
He was red and yellow.
Yeah.
Okay.
For a while. Yeah.
Yeah. So and there's the Patriot and then NWO again. So or Mr. Patriot, right?
Oh, you're talking back to WWE. I thought you meant WCW.
No, yeah. I mean, like, yeah. So from leaving WWF to coming back to WWE he was NWO almost 10. When he came back. It was almost 10 years, right? So he's not even that same character when he came back before he went because it was after Rock. It was after the Rock WrestleMania that he came back and because he had to has the whole story about how he had to get his stuff overnighted, his red and yellow stuff.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, so that's like not a comp as like Hulk Hogan is way more influential as a performer just from the era that he worked and everything. The name ID and everything. Another one is like HBK. So we're talking like 97 to 2002 was the gap, and he was on TV occasionally, but I guess what was did either of those impact when they came back? Did they impact ratings to a level that they were before? I think that would be you would take a 50% haircut on those numbers at best with CM Punk, but it's more like does the show feel, that very first show where he's going to come out and talk at the Raw after? Does the show feel exciting, or does it feel like a standard Raw 3-hour slog? And not so much anymore, but you know what I mean? Like if you haven't watched for a long time and you turn it on and then you're like, get that awesome opener and then you're like a Miz section where he's talking to Gable and Otis, you're like, okay, well, maybe this is not for me. You got to come like pretty hot in that first hour. So, I mean, and I think the character too, right? Like him doing the same character, I think is not going to be the most effective, like you laid out. And I don't know what that is, but if you look a lot of, let's say punks as in musician punks, I think if you look at them in their older years, they are the antithesis of what they stood for back in the day. They're the most establishment, rich white guy energy of all time. So maybe there's some form of Punk to do that as a heel where he's like, get off my lawn. Like, this is not the real way to wrestle. And like, definitely when he's talking with Rollins, especially when they have their feud, he's like, you were brought up to defend me. So like, I'm your daddy, something like that, it's definitely in the cards from a storyline perspective. And like, he could be the, like, this whole generation owes me, a thing of respect and they don't respect me and I'm going to make them respect me, whatever. That sort of like heel persona where like your anti-fan establishment. And you're corporate man Punk. I don't know. I think it'd be interesting. I'd be pro it and I'm, not inclined to like that story at the moment, but if there's good stories, I'll tell you. And if I like something, I like it. Christian in AEW, I thought that was an utter disaster until he,
it was. It was an utter disaster.
And now he's like the hottest thing in the company.
Yeah,
I mean, so it's like, things can happen. And I don't have anything against Jay, but if something's good, I'll tell you. And if something's bad, I'll definitely tell you. So that's where we are.
Yeah, I think Sean here. There's some fresh matchups, but I want Punk as a heel if he comes back. I think that's inevitable. I mean, I really do. Yeah. I mean, and I think you're right, Sean. I mean, and thanks for the comment, but I mean, it's the role that he's better suited for. Like, let's go to some other ones. Brandon, I think CM Punk will get a fairly similar run that Edge had in WWE. I mean, here's the deal. I think that's on the high end. I mean, I think an Edge run is on the high end of what to expect. I mean, Edge, he won the Royal. He had a huge match with Randy Orton that was less huge because of the pandemic, but I can only imagine what that would have been like at WrestleMania 36. Just
I thought it was the greatest match of all time, personally. But
well, did they call it that? I can't remember.
Yeah, that was the branding of it. That's why
I know.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
So
you out sarcasm to me. So congratulations.
But I mean, I'm even talking like the WrestleMania match. That would have been like huge if he would have came back in a real WrestleMania environment instead of with nobody. Oh God, what a time that was. What a just a God. All right, never mind. Someday, some podcast like this one is going to go back and watch those, shows.
The whole era
with no, like the ones that there's not a sound. There,
bro.
It is god freaking awful.
Yeah.
Like, anyway, so
we just hear like the grunting,
Can you imagine like taking a bump like that, like with nobody there? Like, I mean, I've taken bumps and it is not easy and it hurts.
Yeah.
And like, just with nobody around, like it had to make you feel like, why in God's name am I doing this?
Yeah.
Anyway, Edge got that. Edge got Royal Rumble win. Edge got WrestleMania main event. Like, I don't think Punk's getting 2/3 of that. I think he's going to get a big WrestleMania match. I don't think he's winning the Royal Rumble. I don't think he's going to.
I mean, whoever wins that is going to take on the secondary world title, right? More likely than anything.
Well, I mean, like main event, like last match Sunday night.
Yeah. But I'm saying like he could win just like back in the days with 2 belts, right? Whoever wins the Rumble half the time goes for the secondary belt because that's the show they're on, right?
Oh, true. Okay.
You could do that where he could win, but if Rollins is the champion, he takes on Rollins, and then Cody and or The Rock or both take on Roman in the main event of WrestleMania, which is what I think they'll do. But
that could work. Could definitely. So I guess he'll get a Royal Rumble win, but like, I still think the Edge run. I mean, if he gets an Edge run, that I think he would have to look at that and go, "Wow, that's more than I probably deserve." Because the Edge's run was really great. I mean, hold on, he was given a lot from the booking perspective. I wouldn't call the run great, but he was put in a position to be like a tip top guy. So
he made the second most influential group in modern wrestling.
Yes,
he found it. That's something. That
could be another way for Punk to come in and be a heel too. Like get some of the young talent. Like, I mean, geez, like Braun Breaker. Like, what if he could have a group like and kind of steward that thing? Another possibility.
Like Hayes, Carmelo Hayes is
Carmelo Hayes.
Yeah, so like you have all the young, not the Young Bucks, but maybe he'll call them the Young Bucks, something like that. And or like he'll be like not his elite squad. I could definitely like see him leaning very hard into that if he had creative control. Like he would be like the Punk Elite Squad would be like his group. So look out for that. And then my eyes will literally do like a 720 flip in the back of my head twice.
Me too, because but see, like that's the thing. I mean, obviously, like in WWE, you'll know that was approved. Like there's no way we'll know if he goes into business for himself because I think he'll be gone the next day. So, but WWE loves that needling, stuff like that. And we'll keep following the Punk story, guys. We'll talk about it all, but let's talk more. It's a perfect transition into the wrestling war that we're going to see go down, or a battle that we're going to see go down on Tuesday night. We have NXT on its day, Tuesday nights, going head to head with AEW Dynamite once again. It's an ode to 2019 and 2020, and but it's a little bit different this time because for one thing, AEW's moving nights, so they're going to move nights due to, I think it's the baseball playoffs. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it has to be because hockey starts.
Well, hockey starts, but they're on TBS. Does hockey air on TBS?
I don't think so because that's why they used to always move. So it's probably baseball. Yeah,
I think it's the base. Yeah, I think it's baseball. And so, in AEW, they're moving, and they announced early on Adam Copeland is going to wrestle his first match in AEW. He's going to face Luchasaurus. Mm-hmm. Then you have WWE do the NXT show on Tuesday night, and they loaded up that show with main roster talent. Becky Lynch is going to be on the show. Cody Rhodes is going to be on the show. John Cena is going to be on the show. Asuka is going to wrestle on the show against Roxanne Perez. Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes are going to wrestle to the two biggest NXT stars. They're going to wrestle. AEW follows that up, puts out some big matches of their own. You got Rey Fenix who's going to take on Jon Moxley. Big one, Swerve Strickland against Bryan Danielson. That's huge. So you have like a pretty good battle that's taking place on Tuesday night. I'm all for this. I am all for this. 100% for this. I'm curious to hear your thoughts because I don't see the pettiness in it from WWE's perspective. To me, it's like, hey, AEW is coming onto our day and we want to win. So we're going to do what we have to do to win. And, them as a company have the ability to pull other strings to get some really big talent on that show to ensure that they do. I don't see why you wouldn't load that thing up. To me, it's all in the competitive spirit. I'm glad that AEW pushed back and like, all right, fine. You're going to do that. Well, we're going to put some huge matches up and we're going to, we're going to try to beat you. So I'm completely fine with this. I think it's going to make for really fun television on Tuesday nights. And, AEW wants to be a competitor to WWE. Now they are. This is what that looks like, and so I feel like when I read social media, I'm more okay with this than anybody. But I'm also like fully convinced that that's the right way to feel. So change my mind or don't.
No, I agree with you. So I will not. I will, we can do the debate club thing if you want me to, but that would be a hard stretch, I think, for me personally. Because like you said, AEW moved to WWE's time frame, right? It's not like the other way around. And the big thing here for me is both companies. So the Raw and the NXT deals are not decided for the next round, the next 5 years of contracts. The AEW stuff is weird. Like what they're right. Like, is that 5-year thing confirmed? Do I have that right? It's like the one thing I don't.
Which one?
Like their deal with Warner Discovery, right? Like that's through the next 4 years. Like that's where they are. Or
I think they're done at the end of next year. I think.
Yeah. Okay, so they're both like on the same timeline. Yeah. And so like both these, like whoever wins this is going to use this hard as a comparison of like if it's AEW wins, they'll be like, hey, we beat WWE head to head on this date. Like they're making X and Y. Like that's why when we go head to head, we beat them, right? And then same thing for NXT. Like this is our third brand, and we beat the competitor by 100,000 viewers. So NXT is worth something. And if you want Raw, you have to take this with it. But it's also, if it was his own company, beat the number 2 company because it beat the other number 2 company head to head, right? That narrative, whoever wins is going to be used to get an extra $100 million out of somebody. So this is huge. For that reason, I don't think AEW loaded up enough for what it could mean for them. Like, I think MJF should have a title match on this show. Yeah. Because it has not happened for a long time. And you could have him and not Juice, but maybe, I don't know, maybe they have a friend, right? Or maybe you get Zack Sabre Jr. to come in and wrestle MJF or something, right? Like, you got to pull out something big here to get viewership because Cody and Asuka wrestling and all that stuff is going to pull a lot of that big Raw number over to NXT. So I think it makes sense for both companies why you do it. You don't want to lose. Do you have NXT's numbers like off the top of your head the last couple of weeks?
NXT did huge numbers this week, over at 800,000. They beat AEW last week.
Yeah. So, I would incline to think that NXT will win just because of the Cody and Asuka factor and all the matches on display. But we'll see. I think it'll be interesting. I like having both on the same night. We'll talk about when we do our other show on our other platform. We might have to do it. We'll talk after the show, but might have to not be going on at a normal time. Maybe do a post show for both. But so yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's good, and I think AEW is at its best. Maybe not creatively, but like energetically when they had to beat NXT week in and week out. And I don't think NXT was at its best, but I think, competition is healthy. And honestly, too, as a fan, as I, get older, my time is more limited. I would kind of love both these shows to be on at the same time. I'd probably watch both. I'd probably have one on the iPad and one on the TV.
Yeah.
And I would actually feel more informed as a fan as opposed to spending 4 hours watching both. So that's my selfish take. But yeah, I think it's totally fine. I think it's healthy. I think it's fun to do. If they did this once or twice a year, I think it's a fun, point for people like us to be like, hey, this is where the company is. This is where this company is, et cetera. So
yeah, definitely. This is the other side of that coin. And where Zach brings in is like, and thank you, Zach, for joining the show. Appreciate it. Again, the actual viewership is basically irrelevant. WWE had to bring in Cena and Cody because NXT can't beat AEW on its own. Well, Zach, first of all, I don't know about that. They have beat NXT last night or this week. They did in viewership. Now it's not apples to apples because it's different. It's different days, so you can't really compare because there's other things going on the days, so it's hard to make that comparison. But they have beat them, just as an FYI. But I think Zach's point still stands. WWE's bringing Cena and Cody, so even if they do win, does that matter? Or has AEW already won because WWE's felt that they had to do this in order to make sure that they do?
Zach's next point below I want to get to after this too. So just put that up in that because
got it.
But I mean, it depends, right? It's more the strength of the company, right? Because WWE can kind of flex that muscle whenever they want to hype up certain shows, and AEW does not have the ability to. So if SmackDown went to Thursday night for some reason, they would not load up the show to beat Impact, right? So it shows where AEW is on their mind versus other companies. So that's a pro from the AEW ledger. But from the WWE ledger, I disagree with Zach on this. It's just that because they can flex that muscle, it doesn't really matter what they call it. They can still beat AEW whenever they want to with whatever branding they want to call it. So I think they still take the W there for that reason.
Yeah, and that's why they're doing it. I mean, I think it has everything to. And look, they, to be fair to WWE, Becky Lynch, who's a top 5 star in the whole company, has been on NXT the last month. Not competing with AEW. So it's not like this is a total pivot. Beefing up NXT and growing those ratings has clearly been a goal prior to this. This is just, icing on the cake as far as what they're trying to do. And yeah, I mean, I think AEW is going to get walloped, in total viewership. I don't see how it couldn't, with that talent on there. But that's not a knock on AEW. It's just Cody's going to be on the show. John Cena is going to be on the show. So it's so of course they're going to lose. I think that they're fighting and they're going to challenge them. They put some strong matches on. I think you're right that you could put even stronger matches on if you wanted to, but it's not bad for AEW to be in this spot. I think if you're Tony Khan, you're probably looking at it going, all right, yeah, good. They're watching us. They're paying attention to what we're doing. Yeah, they're going to beat us. But, the fact that, we're in the ballpark, I think that's good at this point.
Well, so I want and I'll get to the TBS group listing thing, but yes. I want your prediction because mine right now would be, I don't think I don't know what wallop is in your mind, but my guess is probably NXT is going to be 850 mark. And I think Dynamite's going to be 775. I think it's going to be that sort of night.
Let's see here. I want to see.
Just because the crossover, we've seen that with WWE in the past of, or maybe 700 for AEW. That's a whole night's change. That's a big deal. But you know, we've seen that come over, and like I think like what you got with Becky on NXT is kind of like not the high watermark, but like has NXT ever done over 1 million? At least in the last couple of years.
It's
I just
been
don't
a
think they're going to
while.
break like a crazy million number because Cody's on there. Is what I'm trying to say. I know, you take half of Raw, and that would be the biggest number ever for NXT, but I don't know.
So okay. So to give you some perspective, this week
Mhm.
on NXT, they did 857,000.
Mm-hmm.
Becky was on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Dom was on the show,
Mm-hmm.
wrestling for the North American Championship, and it was NXT No Mercy,
Yeah,
follow-up show.
All Out. Yeah.
So, man, I don't know. When I hear that, if they do
that seems like a
850,
high.
that
That
would
seems like a high
be.
mark, though. Yeah,
Well, it
like
is.
yeah. So I think like 875.
That's the highest
So
in
I
2
said,
years. Highest in 2 years.
yeah. So
I'm gonna. I'm gonna. All right. I'm gonna say. I bet they do. Like, I'll say 950. I think they're gonna do
okay.
like 950. I'll say, yeah, not quite 1 million, but I'll say 950. And I think AEW is going to do like, yeah, I think like, what did they do this week? 800,000.
800. Yeah,
So I'll
800
say
was
like,
the.
yeah, I'll say like 750. I'll say it's like a 200,000 gap.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's more of like a walloping, I would say. It depends where they are in the demo too. I think that's very important. That's like
Yeah. Oh,
it'll
this
probably
is
be one of the.
this is totally just viewership. This is,
Yeah,
yeah.
it'll
I
be
think
one
in
of
the
those things
demo
where
they'll be closer. Yeah.
yeah, like Dynamite will beat them in the demo, but they'll lose the total viewership. So then it's like what really matters. And I've been glad to not have this conversation. This is not your fault, Zach, but I've been glad not to have this conversation week in and week out about ratings. So
Yeah.
to come back to it is kind of disappointing. But it's like I don't miss that era of talking Dynamite specifically. So
Yeah. Well, and I mean, yeah, they don't want to talk about it now either.
yeah,
Nobody
definitely.
wants. They don't want to talk about ratings. But yeah, I mean, I think 200. I mean, to me, 200,000 is a walloping. Like
Yeah,
that's a
I
pretty good
agree.
beating. So that's what I'll say. I mean, if Cody can't bring over 100,000 viewers, that I mean,
Yeah,
I think he will.
but he's talking, right? He's not wrestling.
Yes.
Or gets into the main
Yes.
event. I guess if you're WWE mind, it would be he comes and talks, and then he ends up in a 6-way
Right.
man tag main event or something to keep you through the
Which
whole show.
they could always do, and
Yeah.
they might even do that. I mean, like, who could he work? He can't work Mello. He can't, like, he could work, like, even if it's somebody like, I think you want to do somebody that like is, you know, more
He
of
can work.
a
He can work
like
OTM if they're still called OTM. Maybe.
OTM. Jesus, no,
I don't even want.
God damn it, yeah, OTM. No, like, hold on. I got a couple other things I got to get to, but the I'm trying to think of like an NXT name that he could dust easily,
Mhm.
but that's not like Baron Corbin.
Yeah.
Because that we've been there, done that. We don't need to see
Yeah.
that.
Not
But it's not going to be Mellow. It's not going to be
Breaker.
it's not going to be Breaker. God
He's
damn,
already
I don't
beaten
even.
Dom. You're not gonna have him beat Trick. You're not gonna have him beat
Yeah, now he's
Drogonov.
not being Trick. He's not going to be Tony D'Angelo.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe like a Creed brother. Maybe take on both Creed brothers.
yeah, they're
And beat
baby
the.
faces though.
I
Like,
know.
they're
Yeah.
God, or
OTM's
maybe
looking
like
pretty
one of like the
good.
Gallus dudes, like one of the Gallus guys or something like
Yeah.
that, or like
Or have what's his name? Oh my god.
Noam Dar.
Yeah, no, there you
God
go.
damn it.
Maybe what's his name? Oh my god, the guy he's on SmackDown. Does the show. He's got his talk show.
Oh, Grayson Waller.
Yeah, maybe Waller comes down and gets in his face and they have like a match.
Yeah.
And he could be Waller or something. So
right. Like, I think that's a possibility. But I say that I don't know. Like, look, Zach in the chat, you got your prediction here. We'll take it. I think AEW gets 850, NXT gets 800. That would be, to me, that would be a stunning, like a truly stunning turn of events if that's how it goes. Like, just because I don't think NXT is losing viewership, with Cody and Cena and Asuka and Becky on the show. Like, I don't see them going down. So, And I don't know that AEW goes up. They're moving nights. I mean, there's all sorts of things that are like against AEW here.
Yeah.
So if that happens, Zach, I think Tony Khan is going to. If you're out there listening to this and you thought Tony Khan was obnoxious about the ratings before, if this happens, boy oh boy, like that's going to be a big night for AEW for sure. And hey, more power to him if it happens. Okay. Let's get into Dynamite a little. Anything else on this battle before
just the listing thing Zach brought up? I don't know who you use. I use Hulu Live as my live TV provider.
Okay.
And they listed it as it was like season 5, episode 50, and it was like opening the hatch, which is an episode of Lost. Was how Dynamite was listed, because I was gonna be anyway, it doesn't matter. But I was not able to watch Dynamite live like I usually am. So I was going to tape it, and I could not. I searched Dynamite, and could not find it on my thing. So I don't know what you use. Anyone uses Hulu? Like the first couple weeks of Collision, I couldn't even search for Collision. I had to find it on like the live guide to record it. That was the same thing with Dynamite. So do I think that is a huge number? No. But if you have like a DVR set, that's going to hurt the 7-day number because it didn't record. So just keep an eye out for that. That at least on mine, maybe Zach and I both have Hulu. I don't know. And if it didn't affect everybody's provider, but I just want to make sure that was brought up. And I know Sean was confused in the chat there.
For me, I have YouTube TV, and what was weird about it was I was like, I'm in my office now, and I've got a setup that I like. I got a couple screens. I can watch a couple things at different times. But there's a Roku up here that controls one of the TVs. I could not get I could not get AEW Dynamite to play late, but I started it late, about 30 minutes late. Would not play. It was like the show didn't exist once I clicked on it to play. By the time I moved from up here to another TV, I was able to get it to work, but it was for me it was 6 to 8 was the time slot. And so the reason it didn't work was because I was starting at 8.
Yeah, you're on Mountain Time. Yeah, you're on Mountain Time. Yeah,
it was all messed up. So
so I don't think it's like a huge number, but they could have done maybe 875 instead of 800. If someone dealt with that like you did, and they're like, I'll just wait for a recap show. I'm not going to deal with this right now. That stuff can happen with a small amount. So take that. But also moving is more of an issue than any sort of technical issue that came up as well. So just keep everything in perspective.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll put a bow on the free show right there. Thank you to everybody who joined us. We are going to head to the members show here and do that. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about AEW Dynamite. We're going to talk MJF. We're going to talk a little bit of WWE Fastlane as well. So if you're interested, if you like what you hear, please give us a shot. It's $4 on Patreon, patreon.com/BrassRingMedia. You can get a special weekly podcast, members only podcast from Tyler and I, specialty written content on our Substack, and access to the Brass Ring Media Discord world, which is an absolute blast. Give us a go. Now's the weekend to do it. We certainly would appreciate it. You can also, if you just want to just dabble in our free material, subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to our free Substack. We still have content that goes up there as well. So thank you. Sean, Zach, Tracy, Brandon, everybody else who joined us live. Appreciate you. And we will catch you guys live here next week. See you.